Hello and welcome back, everyone out there in the world. Welcome to the Legal Zone. Today, we have again with us John Salatti. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Solon. Good to be back.
Glad to have you back. And we have the wonderful Dr. Cheney. Good morning, Dr. Cheney.
Good morning.
And we have a very special guest with us today who went through an injustice, and we will hear more about her story. Her name is Kassandra Irwin. Good morning, Cassandra.
Good morning.
Glad to have you on. All right, let's get into it. Now, the last time we were here, we talked about larceny, and we said how larceny is the intentional taking of another person's property with the intent to permanently deprive. It's taking someone's property with the intent to permanently deprive the person of that property. Stealing, we all know what stealing is. Larceny is just a fancy word for stealing. But what happens when you give the person the thing that belongs to you? What happens when I'm at John's house and I tell John, hey, that's a really cool Rolex watch you have on. I'm going to this big show tonight and all the people there are high rollers. Let me borrow that watch of yours so I can fit in. And he says, sure. And he gives me his watch. And I put it on and say, yeah, I'm gonna be hot tonight. And as soon as I leave out his house, I pull up my phone and I block him. Because my intent is to keep that watch, even though John just gave it to me. Is that stealing? Is that larceny? And the obvious answer is yes, that's larceny by trick. So larceny by trick is the intentional taking of someone's belongings with the intent to permanently deprive by using a devious method. So I tricked John into handing over his watch to me. I lied to John, and he, not knowing what my intents were, being a good man that he is, he said, sure, borrow my watch. Larceny by trick. There's another term, larceny by false pretense. Very similar, except larceny by false pretense, it's a step above your lying, conniving thief. When someone steals with false pretense, they actually get the title of the property. So say Dr. Cheney, she loves paintings, and I show her this painting that I have of Vincent van Gogh. And I tell her this is one of the originals, right? Dr. Cheney knows. And she says, oh, I love that painting. I said, yeah, I'm the only one who has this, Vincent van Gogh. And I said, I'll tell you what, I know you like this. Give me your Benz and I give you my painting. And she says, oh no, you won't do that. That painting is probably worth millions. My Benz is old. I'm like, I don't care. You know, I love Benzes. So she says, okay. And I say, but wait a minute. I'm an attorney, you know, I know this. I need your title too. She says, okay. And she signs over the title to her Benz and she gives me the keys. Now I have the title and I have the property, and I give her my Vincent van Gogh painting. Later, she finds out that that painting was done by me. So now I've acquired her car and the title of her car, the property and the title of the property by lies, by false pretenses. That's the difference between larceny by trick and larceny by false pretense. really skilled people get away with the false pretense larceny. It takes someone who has very charismatic, they could talk that talk and walk that walk, and they can talk you into getting title. Our guest has a story that might touch up on both of these. Miss Cassandra, tell us what went on with you.
Okay. Well, I was dating Andre for a while, and he was very charismatic, very manipulative, and
Where'd you meet him?
I met him online.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started talking. We were talking for a long time. He came to visit me. I came to visit him in Maryland. I lived in Kansas City at the time. And so I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee that I had along with the work vehicle. And he came to visit us one time and said, hey, because he knew I wanted to sell it to get something newer. And he was like, hey, let me take it to Maryland because I can sell it for more money there. And I was like, okay, that seems like, because he had helped me out before. This is what really got me. He had helped me out before when I was in a pickle and gave me some money because I was in a jam. So I thought he was trustworthy. Anyway, so I told him, okay,
how long were you all dating before all this happened?
Probably about 6 months.
Okay. And you all would fly back and forth to see each other from the two different states?
Right. Yes. And so, I told him, hey, come get the Jeep. That's fine. I'll let you sell it in Maryland and then just give me the money. I thought I could trust him. And then so he comes to Kansas City, he gets the Jeep, and I didn't want to, but he was very good at manipulating me, and very good at making me do what he wanted. So I did sign the title over to him because he said,
he asked you to turn the title.
yes, he did, because he said that's the only way that he could actually sell it. And I believed him because, like I said, he's very charismatic. And even though I did have this feeling in the pit of my stomach that I shouldn't do it, but I did it anyway. So he took the Jeep the whole time. He's promising me, don't worry, I'll get you your money. It'll be fine. He told my mom that it would be fine. Like, they talked on the phone. He said, don't worry, I'll get her money, blah, blah, blah. So like,
so he had a relationship with your mom too?
On the phone. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So he took the Jeep, he drove it back to Maryland. And I would say within the first couple weeks, I didn't hear anything. He's like, oh, it's going to take a while. My guy is out of town that I used to sell my vehicles. Oh, baby. Anyway, so long story short, he did not sell the Jeep to my knowledge. He didn't give me any of the money. And I kept asking him where the money was. I kept asking him if he had sold it. And he kept giving me the runaround, or he would just ignore me completely and say, oh, I thought that was a gift. Like, he would say, that was a gift, wasn't it? I'm like, no, it was not a gift. And you would need to pay me back for this. But he would just give me the runaround every single time. So, and then in the middle of all of this, I'm kind of dumb, but he wanted me to help him get a loan for his business. And so I thought, okay, well, this was kind of before the whole, I didn't realize I was going to get money for the Jeep thing. It was kind of in the middle. He asked for me to help him get a loan for his business because he needed to do some work on a house. And so I reluctantly, I don't know how he talked me into it, but I got a loan for him and put it in my name. But we had an agreement signed. We had a paper drawn up.
Before we get to that, because I had a text message that I wanted
to. Yeah.
So I guess this is you in white here. You're asking, how's it going? Is he driving?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it says, you're asking him, is the Jeep driving okay for you, baby? He says, just crossed to Maryland. It's raining. No texting. So I guess he's saying that he doesn't want to text.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so you say, just call me when you make it, please. He says, hey, I made it home. Some small concerns about the truck, nothing big. And then there's another one.
I'm on the phone, baby. Go ask grandma.
She's
that
doing something.
says
too.
something about, I'm not arguing with you. You'll figure it out or stay lost. I can't help you. And then you say, I'm not arguing. Are you breaking up with me or what is going on? I need my Jeep back. What is he still driving it?
Yeah, he was still driving it at that time or had it at his place, and he wouldn't respond to me. He wouldn't call me, nothing. Like, he would go days without responding to me.
Okay. And he says that he'll send you the money for what it was sold for.
Right. And he told me that he sold it, but he would never tell me how much he sold it for or how, like, any of the details at all.
So you were asking him this whole time, hey, what's going on with my truck?
Yeah, every day pretty much I would ask him what was going on, and he would give me the runaround.
When you asked him, are you breaking up with me? What did he say to that?
Nothing. He ignored every single thing I ever said, basically. He would ignore me if he didn't want to answer.
Okay, so he has your Jeep, and just so the audience could know, is this the guy?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So now I know Dr. Cheney likes to get a picture in her head. So now you see who we're talking about. Are you okay, Dr. Cheney?
I'm okay.
All right. So he has the Jeep at this point.
Right.
And you're texting him and he's seeing kind of cold. Now he asks
Yeah.
you for help with the business. Go ahead with that.
Right. Yeah, he was like, oh, baby, I love you so much. I need your help. If you do this for me, like, I'll love you forever and blah, blah, blah. Like, so I fell for it, unfortunately. Now looking back, I was an idiot. But anyway, he wanted a loan for his business. So I took out a loan in my name because for some reason he couldn't do it in his name.
Now, how much of the loan are we talking about? A couple of hundred? What was the amount?
No, it was for $30,000.
$30,000?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I had made him sign an agreement, like because it was for his business, Triax or whatever you want to call it. So I made him sign an agreement that said he was going to make the monthly payments until he could pay me off. And he signed it and sent it back to me, and everything looked legit. But again, it comes time for the loan payments and I get nothing. No check in the mail, nothing. I asked him about it. He says, oh yeah, I'll get my guys in the office to send it to you. No problem. I'm sorry. And then nothing, like for months and months and months and months. Yeah.
So you're out of a Jeep and now you're out $30,000.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yep.
sorry to hear about that. And then that's when you came to us.
Yeah, that's when I came to you, because eventually I just figured out his ways, and I figured out that he was trying to scam me, and I needed help. So that's why I called you.
All right. This is the point in the show where we turn it over to Dr. Cheney, and she has a few questions. Dr.
Yeah.
Cheney?
How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Good.
I have some questions, but I want to ask you,
Uh-huh.
because I am too old school and do not do any of this online dating stuff. What kind of background information did the two of you share? For example, what do you do? What do you send, a profile of yourself? And he sends a profile of you?
Of
Well, I
yourself,
mean,
rather.
right. You can see profiles of each other online, so you can get that basic info ahead of time, but then you exchange numbers and you start talking and go from there. So,
So he was never surprised about anything about you because you had already honestly shared all that information.
right. I mean, I was an open book, so he pretty much knew my whole life story, but he was kind of closed off, so I should have known better.
Okay. Why do you think this person felt he could benefit financially at your expense and not be penalized?
Because he's a narcissist. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer. I guess I was vulnerable. I'm a single mom. I lived on my own, and I was looking for a partner, and I thought that he could be that, and he took that and manipulated it out of me to, because I also am a giver, and he knows that. So I I don't know. He just took whatever he could from me and manipulated me and made me do whatever he wanted. So,
And my sub question to that one was his energy so great that you were just unsuspecting?
at
His
first,
energy, the
yes.
connection.
Right. At first it was.
And the other kind of two questions I have here is, if you were to think back about him for a second,
Mhm.
list a few of his positive qualities that influenced your assessment of his character, his positive qualities.
Okay. He's very intelligent. I did like that about him. He's very intelligent. Um he was very affectionate at first, and he was giving at first, like for a little while, until he's, because he, like I said, he did help me out once when I was in need. So I thought that he was trustworthy.
Okay. Now, if you turn it around, what
Mm-hmm.
qualities do you think that this person would list to assess your character?
That he
What do
would
you think
list.
he thinks about you or
Well,
thought initially?
what thought initially? Um, Probably that I'm kind, and I'm assuming, I don't know. I really don't, because he was so mean to me sometimes. Like, I was like, do you even like me? So I don't know how to answer that question. I don't even know if he really did like me.
Yeah. As you know, this falls in a lot of categories. One is which male-female relationships. Do
Uh-huh.
you think that most of us, it could be male, could be females, because females uh, can fit in this scheme also. Do you think that most of us just do not have the prior knowledge or defenses to avoid what was done to you? That we're
Right.
not prepared?
Yeah, I was not prepared at all. So I think that happens a lot. And I have a daughter, so I am going to be preparing her for this situation, because I don't want anyone else to have to go through it. So, yeah, I
That,
was definitely not prepared.
and that kind of leads me to the next one. Since you've thought about this, are there signs that you can now share that might alert others to similar bad endings? And what are those warning signs? Because you just mentioned that you're going to talk to your daughter to sort of prep her
Right.
for. Because I used to say to myself, I wish that I had grown up dating a married man. Maybe I would have been stronger. I don't even know where I got that. But what is it that you come up with?
Some of the warning signs were things like ignoring me for days at a time, not being forthcoming with his life story. Like, he would always get defensive when I asked him questions like, "Oh, are you trying to interrogate me?" Like, "No, I'm just trying to have a normal conversation." So like, people who don't even want to answer questions about themselves, give you any info, only ask for things and don't really give any feedback or any attention back. Like all they want is for you to give, that kind of stuff. Like, and people who can be really cold to you one minute and then very nice to you the next minute. Like he would go from calling me names to telling me he loves me in the same text message. So just like things like that, I'm going to talk to my daughter when she's older about, because those are not behaviors of a good person.
What kind of names did he call you?
He would call me the B word. He would call me stupid. He would call me an idiot. You know, he would call me all sorts of things. And then he would tell me that I looked like I was autistic, or not autistic, like I looked like I had Down syndrome, like just very mean things that, yeah, I don't want anyone to ever say to my daughter.
Wow, what did he do professionally?
He has a business called, it's like I don't even know what exactly they do, but it's called Triax. And he also did some contract work for the government, like for the army.
So,
Was he military?
He was, yes.
Okay.
yeah, he was military. So this is why case is important. So everyone listen up, because everyone's in relationships and everyone gives when they're in that relationship. And if we go back to the two definitions I gave, larceny by trick, larceny by false pretense, those are intent torts, intent wrongs. So whenever you're dealing with this type of case, if you're in a relationship and you're giving, it's a difficult case because it's hard to tell what's really in someone's mind, in their heart, what's driving them to do something.
Right.
And I want to show this picture again. Now, Cassandra, where do you live?
Well, right now I live in Waukene, Kansas.
Did you ever live in Kansas City?
Yes, I lived in Kansas City when I was dating Andre.
Okay, so one of the things that came up in discovery with his attorney was this text message.
Uh-huh.
Now you would notice how he has your name.
Right.
He doesn't even have a name. He has the initials KC.
Right. He always called me Casey.
So that goes to show intent, that if his intentions were pure in this relationship, he wouldn't list you by a city. He would list you by a name.
Right.
So these were things that I was able to tell the attorney, look, we have enough evidence here to show that his intents were not pure.
Yeah.
And so these are things that if you're in a relationship and you see these type of things, one, you could tell yourself, look, what is this guy's, what is this lady's? Because it's the same way, right? A woman could use a man just as much as a man could use a woman.
Right.
Their true intent. And if you're an attorney representing someone in a case like this, look for all the evidence that would show what the person's true intents are. Okay? Cassandra, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for your story. Her story actually has a very good, happy ending. Okay, we're going to talk about that at the end. But thank you so much, Cassandra, for coming on the show.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good day.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Interesting story.
Yeah. Sad story.
So at one point in time, Cassandra met a guy on the internet, a guy who swept her off of her feet. She was in love. She gave this guy her Jeep, possession of the Jeep, but she also gave him the title, false pretenses, possibly, of the title. So it's all his now. Then she took out a loan in her name and gave him $30,000. Now he's gone. Where's the injustice?
Well, I mean, the injustice ends up playing out on multiple levels. Maybe that's of course true in many cases, but it's particularly obvious here. I mean, the thing that's presenting that sort of gets the firm involved is she's out of possessions and money, the material things. So there's the injustice that she has, her vehicle is off in the wind. She doesn't know where it is, doesn't know what's going to happen to it. Whatever its value is, gone, and she needs that. And then, of course, there's the loan. And so now she's on the hook to whoever she got the money from to pay that back. So there's the material injustice. She has had goods stolen from her based on, again, your earlier Solon, larceny by trick. I mean, I like that because, again, yeah, it says it so beautifully, right? He tricked her into giving up something that she was not had any intention of doing. She didn't have any intention of giving it away. So that, and then of course, yes, with the title, then it takes on that other form that you laid out. So there's the material injustice, but then there's the human side, the heart injustice. Here was a woman who invested in a relationship. And I can say that, I've known people who have met people online and been very, very happy about it and went on to have great lives. So it's not something that, oh, well, see what happens when you do online dating. That's not the case. But in her instance, she invested, she felt like she was getting somewhere, that she was making progress to create a life relationship. And now that's stolen from her as well. Hard to get the money back for that one.
Yeah. When we talk about relationships, now, usually, of course, when you even get involved in stuff like this, you watch Judge Judy, when things are exchanged in a relationship, she doesn't touch that. It's like, whatever. Dr. Cheney, should people, when they get in a relationship, be cautious of what they're giving with the expectation that they're in love and the other person loves them too? How do you deal with that?
You don't start giving as soon as you meet a person.
Okay, so
If you're going to give it all.
all right.
Some females are not givers, or some men are not givers. And then it depends on what you're talking about with giving.
Money, gifts, or are they gifts, loans? Now, in her particular case, neither one was a gift. And she made clear that the Jeep wasn't a gift. The Jeep was something that he was supposed to be selling for her. And then the money was a loan. But she did this favor for him because there were feelings there and they were in a relationship. Should people avoid doing that altogether?
Well, it all depends, because sometimes you get in relationships and both of you are financially stable and able to do that. That is, give to each other. And then there are other relationships where financially you may not be. But it's all situational. It all depends. But one of the things that I was concerned or curious about is the initials KC at the top of the email. It led me to just quickly believe that the person is a serial online searcher.
All right.
If that's
And that's actually, so everyone knows, we were able to secure a settlement in this case where he agreed to pay more than the loan and the value of the Jeep. And so Miss Irwin is getting her money back. He's making installment payments, and then he's going to pay one lump sum later this year. So that's the happy ending of her story. And as you were saying, Dr. Cheney, there's enough proof, there's enough evidence to show, one, that there was a loan that should have been repaid, And two, their defense of, oh, they were in love, they were a couple, she was doing nice things for him. There was enough evidence to show that he was never really into it. KC at the top of the name in his phone, that came from his phone, that he called her, and her initials are not KC. That's where she lived. And
Yeah, but it's easier to remember that that's my person from KC
he might have had an LA
versus my person
phone.
from Middleburg,
Right.
VA or something.
He might have
Yeah,
had a DC, a NY. Who knows?
that's right.
Might be full of city initials.
And I think that's interesting for folk to know that there are people that email can be very instructive to people because it allows us to see that this could be really the norm in some instances, but it hasn't been talked about.
Right.
That people are dating and dating proliferously in a lot of different areas. And maybe in certain areas is more, if you're going to deal with money and whatnot, maybe certain areas is more so than other areas. And then folk could be lonelier in certain areas too.
Right. So two things that we should be mindful of, all of the people out there who's dating, and this is just advice outside of the legal realm for hopes that if it gets into a situation where you have to file a lawsuit, you'll be protected. One, if you're going to give something, give with the expectation that you're not going to get it back. That way, if you don't get it back, you're not hurt, right? You're giving and you're not even thinking about giving it back. If you're going to do favors and loans, make sure that you have something documented that this is a loan. This is not a gift. Drop a piece of paper, and if anything that you say in that paper is this is a loan and not a gift, make sure you get that little phrase in there. So it would show what the mind intends, right? Meeting of the minds is what it's called. And just always try to question the person's intent of being in the relationship. In this situation, the guy seemed as though his intent was to get from her everything that he could. And then when his cup was full, he exited. John, I'll let you have the last word.
I think you said it well, that he saw how much he could reasonably get out of her. Again, it's particularly the question to Dr. Cheney. Here was somebody who didn't have a lot of resources. It's one thing if you have a lot, you want to give, fine, give. But when you're in a limited circumstances, you're a single mom, as she said, you have to be much more prudent about how you're exposing yourself like she did in this situation. And even though you want that relationship, it's having to build the foundations for that relationship much more fully before that level of giving happens. And now, yeah, he's 40,000 between the loan and the vehicle, 40,000 plus whatever ahead of the game. How much more is he going to really be able to get out of her? Okay, I've tapped this well dry, time to go in, as Dr. Cheney again is intimating, let's hit another well. Real scam artist on the relationship side. And that's truly unfortunate and an injustice, but an injustice remedied at Remus Law.
Yes, indeed.
Forget to subscribe.
Subscribe at the button in the bottom. And again, it was a happy story. Justice was served. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dr. Cheney.
Okay.
And we'll see you all again next week.
Always great doing justice.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching our video. For experienced legal services in Washington, D.C., Alabama, and Washington State, visit our website at remuslaw.com or call us at 1-833-329-1799.